You're the one who always shows up. The one who remembers birthdays, picks up the pieces, listens more than you speak. You cancel your plans so others don't feel let down. You say yes when you're aching to say no. And somehow, that became your identity. The good one, the reliable one, the kind one. But lately, it's wearing thin. You've started to feel invisible. Like your kindness is expected, not appreciated. Like you're being used for your softness, not seen for your soul. And deep down, maybe you've wondered, why do I feel so tired all the time? Why am I starting to resent the people I love? Why does doing the right thing sometimes feel so wrong? Because the truth is, being good, always good, can come with a cost. You've been praised for your patience, but no one saw the pressure. You've been admired for your generosity, but no one asked what it took from you. You've smiled through burnout. You've apologized when it wasn't your fault. You've swallowed anger, hidden envy, and silenced your needs just to keep the peace. And behind all of it, there's a fear you rarely admit out loud. If I stop being so nice, will they still love me? So you keep giving, keep overextending, keep shrinking yourself to fit what others need, until you don't recognize yourself anymore. But what if your kindness isn't always rooted in love? What if it's rooted in fear? Fear of being judged, fear of being disliked, fear of being alone. And what if being good has become a mask? One that hides your exhaustion, your resentment, your truth. It's not weakness, it's not failure. It's just the part of the story no one talks about. Because goodness without boundaries is not virtue, it's self-abandonment. And if you've ever felt like your kindness was slowly breaking you, this video is for you. Not to change who you are, but to finally understand why you feel this way. To unravel the quiet pain behind people-pleasing. To show you that you're not alone. And maybe, just maybe, to remind you that you're allowed to take up space. This is the dark side of good people. Let's talk about it. You've always believed being good was the right thing to do. From a young age, maybe you were taught that love is earned through politeness, obedience, and selflessness. That being easy to be around was safer than being honest. That keeping others happy meant you were worthy of being kept. So you learned to anticipate everyone's needs. You picked up on tension before it was spoken. You became the one who never made trouble, even when you were hurting, and the world rewarded you for it. People called you thoughtful, selfless, sweet. They said you were so mature for your age, but they never saw how heavy that praise was. How it became a silent rule, be good or be alone. So you kept playing the part. You made yourself smaller in arguments. You offered apologies before anyone asked. You hid the parts of you that felt too much, the anger, the jealousy, the need for rest, just to keep your place in people's lives. And for a while, it worked. But slowly, something inside began to shift. You started feeling tired, but not just physically, emotionally drained, not just burnt out, but hollow. The joy you once felt in giving, it's been replaced by quiet resentment. Not because you want to stop being kind, but because kindness has started to feel like a performance. You're constantly filtering yourself, second-guessing your tone, apologizing for your own boundaries. And the hardest part? You don't know how to stop, because you're scared. What happens if you finally say no? What happens if you stop answering every call, fixing every crisis, holding every burden? Will they still call you kind? If you start choosing yourself? This is where the pain of goodness begins to fester, in the gap between who you are and who you've been told to be, in the pressure to be likable over being real, in the fear that if you stop pleasing, you'll stop mattering. But here's the thing, your worth was never meant to be built on sacrifice. You are not more lovable because you disappear for others. You are not more moral because you suppress your needs. And being kind should never mean being erased. This isn't about becoming selfish. It's about becoming whole. Because the real danger of always being good is that you start to lose access to your own truth. And truth, even when it's messy, loud, or inconvenient, is the only place real peace can grow. So let's go deeper. Let's trace how this performance of goodness began, and more importantly, how to begin unlearning it. Because this didn't start with you. It started with the stories you were told. From childhood, many of us were taught that goodness looks like obedience, that love looks like self-sacrifice, that approval is something we earn by pleasing others, staying quiet, and being helpful, even when it hurts. And society reinforces that idea at every turn. The good girl who never talks back, the strong man who never shows pain, the reliable friend, the selfless mother, the always available co-worker. We applaud the ones who keep giving, even as they silently crumble. We label them noble, humble, selfless. We say they have a good heart, but rarely do we stop to ask what it's costing them. The truth is, society doesn't just reward goodness, it exploits it. It takes the people most willing to give, and keeps taking. And when those people finally reach their limit, when they snap, break down, or finally say no, the same society that praised their selflessness suddenly calls them selfish, dramatic, or ungrateful. You're expected to be everything for everyone, but you're punished the moment you need something for yourself. This is how quiet resentment begins to grow. Not because you don't want to help, but because your worth has been tied so tightly to how much you give. You forget you were ever allowed to ask for more. And for older adults especially, this conditioning runs deep. Maybe you were raised in a generation where emotions weren't talked about, where duty came before rest, where putting yourself first was labeled as wrong, even shameful. But let's be honest, when the world only values your goodness when it's useful to them, that's not love, that's performance. And what's most dangerous about this is that the more you perform, the more invisible you become, because people don't see the real you. They see the role you're playing, the caretaker, the fixer, the peacekeeper. And slowly, the pressure to keep that role alive becomes suffocating. So many people live entire lives being the dependable one, and no one ever thinks to ask what they need in return. This is why we need to talk about it. Because when the world constantly rewards self-sacrifice, it teaches you to ignore your own boundaries. It normalizes burnout. And it makes you feel guilty just for choosing yourself. But choosing yourself isn't wrong, it's necessary. And before we can change how others treat us, we have to unlearn the idea that our worth is tied to how much we give. Because your value is not measured by your exhaustion, it's measured by your presence, your honesty, your wholeness. In the next section, let's look at what happens when this pressure builds, when the kindness starts to hurt, when the yes you gave too many times finally breaks something inside of you. Let's talk about the psychological cost, because being the good one comes with a silent price, one that piles up over years, sometimes decades. It starts quietly, a small sigh when you say yes, but mean no. A smile you force when you're too tired to keep going. A favor you agree to, even when your plate is already full. And slowly, you start disappearing. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Your needs get pushed aside, your wants become negotiable, your voice gets quieter, until even you can't hear it anymore. What's left behind is resentment, a kind of quiet bitterness that lives just under the surface. Not because you're unkind, not because you don't care, but because somewhere along the way, caring started to hurt. You look around and realize you're the one who's always there for others, but no one is there for you. You check in on people, but they don't check in on you. You listen to everyone's problems, but no one asks how you're doing. And it builds. At first, it feels like exhaustion. Then it becomes burnout. And eventually, it turns into hidden anger, not the explosive kind, Not the kind that lashes out, but the kind that sits in your chest, tightening your breath, making you feel on edge even when nothing's wrong. The kind of anger that says, "Why do I have to do everything? Why doesn't anyone ever show up for me? Why do I feel guilty for saying no?" But instead of expressing it, you swallow it. You smile through it. You minimize it. Because you've been taught that good people don't get angry. Good people don't complain. Good people just keep going. So you suppress it. And the more you suppress, the more disconnected you feel from others, from yourself, from the life you thought you were building. This is how the kindness you once gave so freely becomes a burden. This is where doing the right thing starts to feel wrong. Not because the act itself changed, but because your intentions were never seen. Your sacrifices were never acknowledged, and your silence was mistaken for strength. And for many people, especially those who've spent their lives putting others first, this inner conflict becomes a daily reality. You want to help, but you also want to be helped. You want to give, but you're desperate to receive. You want to be kind, but you're tired of that kindness going unnoticed. This is the emotional weight of being too good. It's not just about doing things for others. It's about losing yourself in the process. It's about feeling invisible, even when you're constantly present. But here's the truth you need to hear. Your anger is not a flaw. Your resentment is not a failure. They are signs, signals, clues from your inner world that something needs to change. You've been carrying too much for too long. And it's okay to feel heavy. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to say, "This isn't working for me anymore." Because when we ignore those signals, we risk turning our goodness into a prison, one where we're trapped by our own expectations, one where we perform the role of the perfect person while silently breaking inside. And that brings us to something even deeper. What happens when being good isn't just what you do, but who you have to be, just to be accepted? That's where the performance begins. Not the kind that wins awards, but the kind that hides pain. The mask that says, "I'm fine," even when you're unraveling. The role you play so well that people don't even question it anymore. You're the reliable one, the strong one, the kind one, the one who never complains. And after a while, even you forget there's someone else underneath it all. This is the part no one talks about, that sometimes being the good person isn't about values. It's about survival. Because somewhere along the way, you learned that goodness was the ticket to love. That if you were helpful, people would need you. If you were kind, they'd keep you around. If you never made waves, you wouldn't be left behind. And so, slowly, without realizing it, you start shaping yourself around other people's comfort. You shrink your needs so no one feels burdened. You water down your truth so no one gets upset. You become agreeable, predictable, soft-edged, even when life has made you anything but. And the scariest part? People start loving the mask more than the person wearing it. They love the you that always shows up. The you that never says no. The you that makes everything easier for everyone else. But what happens when you finally want to take that mask off? What happens when you say, "I'm not okay"? What happens when you speak up and people start pulling away? That's the fear, isn't it? That if you stop performing, they'll stop loving you. That if you show the messy parts, the anger, the exhaustion, the truth, you'll be too much, too intense, too emotional, too real. So you keep wearing the mask. You smile when you're breaking. You give when you're empty. You stay silent when you want to scream. And the world praises you for it. They say you're selfless. They call you strong. They say, "I don't know how you do it." But you do know. You've been surviving, not living. And deep down, a quiet voice whispers, there has to be more than this. More than being liked. More than keeping the peace. more than sacrificing yourself for scraps of appreciation. Because the truth is, real connection doesn't come from performance. It comes from presence, from being known fully, not just for your kindness, but for your courage, not just for your patience, but for your pain. You are more than the role you've been playing, more than the version of you that people find convenient. And if that version is the only one they'll accept, maybe the real problem was never that you were too much. Maybe it was that you kept making yourself small, just to fit into places that were never built to hold your whole self. This is where things start to change. It doesn't happen all at once. There's no dramatic moment where you flip a switch and suddenly become empowered. It's slower than that, quieter. It begins in the tiniest moments. The moment you say no without explaining. The moment you leave the text unanswered because your peace matters more than instant replies. The moment you take a breath before reacting and choose you instead. And at first, it feels wrong. Because when you've spent a lifetime putting others first, choosing yourself can feel like betrayal. But it's not betrayal, it's healing. Setting boundaries isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear. Clear about what you can give without emptying yourself. Clear about what kind of love feels nourishing, and what kind of love feels conditional. Clear about what you need, even if you've spent years pretending you don't. And no, not everyone will like the new you. The one who doesn't always say yes. The one who takes up space. The one who dares to have needs, opinions, and limits. Some people may leave. Some may push back. Some may call you selfish. But here's what they won't tell you. Sometimes people call you selfish the moment you stop serving their comfort. And maybe that's okay. Because the people who truly love you, they'll adjust. They'll listen. They'll grow with you. And if they don't, that's information, not failure. Boundaries don't ruin relationships. They reveal them. You're not here to be everything for everyone. You're here to be whole. So if you're tired of feeling invisible, start by making yourself visible to you. Validate your own needs. Listen to your own voice. Trust your own timing. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to apologize for needing space. You don't have to explain why you're not available, emotionally, mentally, physically, all the time. There's a quiet kind of power that grows when you stop abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable. It's the kind of power that says, I matter too. This isn't the end of your kindness. It's the beginning of something more honest, more sustainable, more real. Because true goodness doesn't require you to disappear. It asks you to show up fully, freely, and without fear. And in the final section, we'll leave you with a message. One that's just for you, the one who's given so much, the one who's trying to find their way back to themselves, the one who's finally ready to be seen. Let's close with that message, the one you've needed to hear for a long time. You, the one who's always been there for everyone else, the one who remembers the little things, the one who softens your voice so you don't seem too much, the one who holds your sadness behind a smile because you don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. You are not invisible. You are not weak. You are not broken because you feel deeply or love hard. You're human. And maybe for the first time in a long time, you're starting to realize that being good doesn't have to mean being small. It doesn't have to mean being silent. It doesn't have to mean putting yourself last in every story. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love. You don't need to please everyone to earn rest. You don't need to keep giving just to prove you matter. You already do. Somewhere along the way, you learned that love had to be earned, that being needed was the same as being valued, that if you were helpful, selfless, kind, maybe people would stay. Maybe they'd love you. Maybe you'd finally feel safe. But the cost has been too high. You've ignored your own needs. You've quieted your own voice. You've watered yourself down so others could bloom. And now, maybe, just maybe, you're ready to choose differently. To choose boundaries, not guilt. To choose truth, even if it shakes things up. to choose rest, joy, freedom, not because you've earned them, but because you exist. This isn't a call to become selfish. It's a call to become whole, to reclaim the parts of you that were hidden to keep others comfortable, to stop shrinking, to take up space. Because there is strength in softness. There is power in saying no. There is beauty in being a full, complex, imperfect human. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to stop performing. You are allowed to stop carrying what was never yours to hold. This is your permission slip, to rest, to be seen, to speak honestly, to take care of yourself. Not as a last resort, but as a daily promise. The world doesn't need another perfect person. It needs you, the real you. So if no one's told you lately, you don't have to earn your place. You already belong and you are enough, just as you are, always.